This is Home to All, an all-inclusive real estate podcast with your host, Nicholas Acosta. Nick sits down with guests to talk about real estate and how it works. Reach him at downtown.expert on Facebook and Instagram, or his website, www.downtown.expert, or call or text him at 407-508-8809. Enjoy the episode.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning here in Florida. This is Nicholas Acosta, host of the podcast, Home to All, an all-inclusive real estate podcast. Joining you today live. It is now 11:15 a.m. Eastern in Florida with beautiful Lake Eola behind me at the view of Lake Eola, the condo we live in. And this is our 1-year anniversary of the show. So I want to thank you to everybody out there listening or watching today for your continued support on the show. And I brought in a special guest of mine that I got to be on his podcast about this time last year. Hernan Sias with the Business Bros podcast out there in San Diego. How's it going over there, Hernan?
Good morning, Nick. First of all, I love your intro, dude. That looked totally cool. I love the new video intro.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, we're like you said, into the year anniversary, and now you've got to see how my show has developed in that year. And just wanted to say thank you for reaching out to me, or us getting in touch with each other, letting me be on your podcast as a guest a year ago, probably about this day. It was November for sure. And being on your show and then teaching me all about podcasting so I could do it on my own. So just wanted to give you that thanks and shout out for everybody out there listening that Hernan has been an influential help in this process.
Well, thanks, Nick. I mean, dude, let's face it. When a year ago you thought it wasn't possible to do podcasting, and you went from, maybe thinking about probably doing it a little bit to holy crap, you got a show that you do live every single day, fully branded. You've had TV commercial spots. You've had some great guests on your show. You've made some great connections. And dude, you've got properties listed. You've got deals closing. It's been one hell of a ride, right?
Oh no, definitely, man. It's amazing. And then I've opened up my own brokerage, the Downtown Expert Realty brand. And what's cool about that, Hernan, is that in my credit to you guys out there and you and Business Bros podcast is that I would just want to say thank you, because with my brokerage now, today I have an onboarding call this afternoon, and I'm going to be talking to this real estate agent here in Orlando that's looking to join us, and I'm going to be able to share with them that, they'll have the ability to be on this podcast with me as a guest to help build their pipeline, as well as learn about podcasting from what you have out there to teach and my experience out there, so that they can utilize that in their day-to-day lives, so they can continue to build their pipeline like we have in this business or doing this podcast. And I'm so stoked that it's been a year and that now I'm able to do what I've learned and what you've taught me and share that with others in the business, so they can continue to grow their brand and their leads or their sphere as well. So thank you.
Man, the power of podcasting, dude, it's huge. Yep. I mean, okay, so last year at this time, you were getting podcasts started. But if you remember, last year at this time, the world was kind of a normal place. Like, people weren't very comfortable getting in front of a camera. People weren't very comfortable putting their content out on social media like they are today due to COVID. Like the world has completely changed. But we use podcasting a little bit differently than a lot of people do. I mean, a lot of people start this whole podcast space because they want to be the next Joe Rogan. But what I shared with you was, look, this is a great way to connect with people, to meet people that you otherwise wouldn't be talking to, and using it as a value proposition. And you've taken it to a whole new level. Not only have you met people that you can probably do business with, earn referral business from, grow your network, you also decided to branch out because you were with another realty company prior to that, but you decided to, you got your confidence level went through the roof. Like you decided, I'm going to take this on my own. I decided I'm going to, create this own brand on my own. And you did it like full force. Like, everything that the podcasting platform has brought to you beyond the exposure, it's brought to you so much more confidence. It's brought to you a little clarity of vision. I mean, it's huge where you're at now.
No, I can couldn't agree more. I definitely, the confidence thing is a good thing. As you mentioned earlier about anyone listening or watching today, I've done three separate recordings of a TV spot, and was when I was with another brand or brokerage before. And then when I got my own brokerage, I reshot like one scene in the commercial, just one scene only. And then in the last few weeks, I completely reshot the whole commercial in a new format and everything, more, interactive, as you've seen, Hernan. And what's cool about that is that the podcasting and the training that you've provided me and the guidance over this past year has made me confident when I walk into the studio there in Maitland, Florida. I'm used to being around the lights, the audio equipment. I know exactly the best way to talk on the microphone to come out clear and concise with my message. And that is very heavily in part due to the podcasting in the past year, because it's in the beginning, I was like, oh my God. And everyone out there, I'm sure you've had this experience too, Hernan, that nobody wants to hear their voice played back that's recorded. They're always nervous about it because we sound different when we listen to ourselves from when we hear ourselves actually talking like we are right now. So if we were listening to this in rollback on a tape, we're like, oh my God, do I sound like that? What do I sound like? I don't like my voice because we sound different. But when we hear it recorded, and that's definitely this podcasting this past year. Anybody out there hasn't done it yet, you guys should have been doing this yesterday, but it's still never too late to start. And you got Hernan with the Power of Podcasting, and if you ever want to reach out to me as well, I'm very, and we're both very helpful in wanting to see you guys succeed, no matter what industry you're in. And we're not afraid. We're both real estate agents, and we're not afraid to share our process and our ideas with you. There's nothing we're afraid that you're going to steal from us, because everybody has their own unique way of doing their show. Like Hernan mentioned in the beginning, like I got the new intro and the new branding, and the Business Bro podcast, they have their own intro, their own branding. So there's nothing we're not a threat to each other. We can only help each other grow together, is what I'm trying to say. When you agree?
If it was nighttime and that you were looking at the same background, you would see so many different lights, right? So many different lights that are just blinking out there, and each one of those lights is a potential opportunity. There's more than enough business out in this, even if you're in a local micro market, there's more than enough business to go around. And so, having that fear or whatever, it shouldn't be there. It's just more of an ability for you to grow as an individual. Some of your strengths are going to be some of other people's weaknesses. You can partner in together. I noticed that you have an insurance company that you're partnered with now, and that's super cool, right? I mean, again, this is a value add. Now, when you're sitting down and talking to a client, you're not only looking at it from their home perspective, but you also have an insurance perspective that you can bring into the picture to kind of help illuminate the situation, right? Not only do we want to help you buy or sell your home, we want to make sure that you're protected in the right way. Let me introduce you to my counterpart, whatever it's going to be. And that's the type of stuff that, when you're first getting started in business, and just like when you're first getting started in podcasting, there are things you just don't know. You're going to come across problems and issues that you never even questioned or thought about. But as you practice through them, as you work through them, you get better. You realize the answer to that particular problem, and now it's part of your repertoire. Now it's part of your toolkit. And it's the same thing with creating a podcast and creating a brand. There are things that you don't know that are going to come up, and it's okay. Those are good things. Those are great problems to have, and it's great to have mentors like Nick or like myself to come back and say, look, it's okay. This is how you solve this problem. This is how we adjust this background. This is how we adjust your mic. This is how we do certain things. Because the more you practice, the better you're going to be. You're going on presentations now. And so, going on a listing presentation can be nerve-wracking. Unless you've already done a couple, 100 podcasts or so, then all of a sudden the presentation and who you are and what you're messaging and all these different things, they become second nature. You say these stories so often. So, you tell people where you come from and what you're doing and where your goal is and where your vision and where you want to go over and over and over again, that it becomes second nature. So when you're sitting in front of a listing presentation or a buyer presentation, the part about who you are, the confidence levels through the roof. You then transfer that same confidence over to where you want to get them, and all of a sudden signing that piece of paper at the end, the purchase agreement or the buyer contract, it's so much easier because that the person in front of you can clearly see the confidence level that you have.
I know, I couldn't agree more for sure, because we were just talking, Hernan and I were talking in pre-show before we went on at 11:15. Basically, we were talking about how, and like Hernan, I know we heard about that. We talked about this where I just got two, actually to talk about the podcasting and how it's important in your business. And I know you'll probably agree with this. For instance, like I had two listings, one in Orlando, which is close by to where I live downtown, where you guys see me in my background. And then Kissimmee, which is about 45 minutes away from here, closer to the Disney parks, like literally around the Disney parks. And two different markets, but we're still in Central Florida. Kissimmee area attracts to, vacationers, people that want to utilize the theme park, stay here, have a place to stay that's an alternative to like a hotel or a VRBO or Airbnb or whatever. And then you've got Orlando, where I live in the city, where my one listing it's in the city limit. However, it's closer to the suburbs. So it's a whole different, area of town. But at the same time, what I'm trying to say is that when I've gone to do my, let's see, especially going on with COVID out there in the world, when I've done my open houses, or if I go there just to go to the property to meet with the sellers or go there to check on the property for my sellers, I would always use my podcast as an opportunity, and especially open houses, to do my podcast remotely in the field. Like I've seen you in your car before, Hernan, and I know I've seen you at one of the listings that I remember, that really awesome listing you had that one time recently, the really big house. You did your podcast there too. So, let's talk about that, because everybody out there, it's more than just, us here, informing you of things, but we're also utilizing this platform for our business to market our properties and, of course, market our brand. Wouldn't you agree on that?
Oh, dude, technology has allowed us to do so many great things, right? So, I mean, that's absolutely huge. With COVID, here in San Diego anyways, we're not allowed to do open houses. It's just not the right thing. We can do by appointment, right? We're allowed to do those types of things. So it's kind of like a scheduled open house. But how do you get the rest of the public to see stuff? And that's the thing is if you're constantly bringing some sort of value, then people are going to want to tune in and listen, or at least catch your headline of whatever the next post is going to be. And if it interests them, then they're going to tune into that. That open house that I did, that was the first time I had even decided to try to use StreamYard, which is the platform that everybody can see on here, right? Where we play our intros, outros, that sort of stuff. It was the first time I had tried to use StreamYard as a mobile platform. So in other words, I did that show from my cell phone and kind of walked through that entire property. And it was the first time I had done that, and it turned out pretty good. It still got the quality of the podcast that we normally had. I was still able to do, little movie clips and throw up little headlines or whatever I needed to do as we're walking through the property. So it gives that branded touch that people are used to seeing on my particular show, but it also allowed them to see what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. Like I'm not in that studio. I wasn't in here where I'm at now. At that time, I was mobile. I was out showing properties, or I was out doing an open house, or, I'm driving around in my car because I'm going from listing to, buyer, or whatever that situation is. But that's the difference between people who are just having the one thing that they do, this is my brand, this is my logo, to where you can physically see what this person is doing. You can see where I'm at. You can see what I'm doing. You can see who I'm talking to, because I allow you to come in and be a part of that lifestyle, right? So once you know what I do on a regular basis and you see me doing it on a regular basis, when you think of, I need a real estate agent, who are you going to think of? You're going to think of the guy that you've been seeing all the time, right? And that's the power of using your brand and your leverage and documenting what you do on a daily basis. You don't always have to be super creative, but document what you're doing. Another tip that I learned recently was, if you look at your email inbox and you have questions from clients, that people ask you stuff all the time. You're in real estate or you're in insurance, whatever. You have clients that ask you questions. Those are great content pieces. So if you're not going to go mobile and record when you're going out, take those email questions and answer them for your audience. That's a great content piece. Now, you don't have to go into detail and say, what the dollar amount for this particular situation is, but that's a general question that if that person was asking, there are probably a ton of other people who have the same question. Right. So, use that to your advantage. And now you're the resource, you're the brand, you're the one who shows them what's going on. You're the one who answers questions. You're the one who brings value. That's what it's all about. That's really what building your brand is all about.
Awesome, Hernan. We're gonna take a 30-second break, and on the other side of the break, everybody, Hernan and I are gonna talk about a very important thing, and I know you'll like this topic because we talk about it all the time, you and I, for the past year, about consistency. So when we come back from a break, does that sound good?
Sounds good to me.
All right, guys, just see you in a second. Instead of spending hours or even days looking for your new home, let a downtown Central Florida expert guide you. Hi, I'm Nicholas Acosta, and I'm here to welcome you home. Being a Florida native, I know how exciting, convenient, and stylish the downtown Florida lifestyle is. Whether you're entertaining your guests or enjoying the views, Central Florida downtown has a lot to offer you and your family. Buying, selling, or investing, I'm your downtown Central Florida expert.
Awesome. I really like how you've been using the StreamYard platform. I mean, dude, everybody has their own creative nature, but again, the fact that you can do that, right? The fact that you can drop in a 30-second clip and or you can drop in, anybody else's who you're partnering with or featuring a particular property that you have listed. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do with this. And it really dives into what we're going to be talking about here. It's your ability to be consistent. The only reason you thought to do that particular commercial was because you have your show coming out every single day. You're like, what would be a good thing to have right here? This, and you drop it in there and you give it a shot. Right. And you give it a shot. You test out what's working in the market and you see how people react to it. And then if people react really well to it, then you continue to go with it. If they don't, you modify it, you change it, and you adapt it. But you're there every single day. It's like a baseball player, right? If a baseball player comes up to bat, chances are he's going to get a hit the more times he comes up to bat. And that's what we want to do here when we're talking about creating content and staying consistent. It's like, okay, well, yesterday's show, that wasn't that great a show. Today I'm going to try something a little bit different and I'm going to go at it. And then today's show is a little bit better. I'm going to try something tomorrow and maybe tomorrow works out better. But you get better every day as long as you practice your craft. And your craft is getting in front of people and telling them what it is you do. You're just doing it through a platform we call podcasting.
No, I completely agree, Hernan. And many out there, I know Hernan knows this story, like a year ago when I started this, like we were talking about when we came back from the break, but as you mentioned, is about consistency. So in the beginning, when you first do your podcasts and you do a Facebook Live, right now we're on 6 platforms. I added what's called Periscope, which is through Twitter, and some other ones out there. I'm on 2 YouTube channels and to my Facebook personal page as well as my business profile. And of course, still working on trying to get LinkedIn, but I know that's a whole nother story because the waiting list is long for that.
Gosh.
But no, that's what both Hernan and I are every day applying for, waiting our turn to get in there. But I know our consistency, no pun intended will get us there. So if you're having any issues trying to get on to LinkedIn, like video or live or whatever, like Hernan always say, just be consistent. Eventually, you're going to get the yes, or your turn is up. Your waiting list time is done, and you're on the list now to actually do live streams there. So, with that though, what I was going to say is that when I first started out, Hernan, and we did talk to the listeners and viewers today, is the numbers in the beginning of like when I, for instance, using originally I used SoundCloud, which now I use Anchor.fm. Initially, the numbers were discouraging where okay, your listens, maybe one here, maybe one there, maybe one here, maybe one not there, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And over time, from the consistency that we're talking about today, everybody, is that those numbers have continued to progress forward or steam forward, where now I'm getting about an average 100 listens a day. And you can see the data on Anchor.fm. I see listens that have happened in, let's just say, like Brazil or maybe Rio de Janeiro, and I've seen like the Canary Islands in Spain or somewhere in Russia have listened to the show. And of course, the majority of listens are in the United States, but I am getting worldwide listens, which is so cool and a proud moment for yourself as a podcaster. And I'm sure you'll agree with this, Fernand, is that the matter of the fact is that somebody's listening to you, even though you didn't advertise necessarily, but because of the podcast platforms are sending that information out there, that people, if they go to maybe search real estate or search something related to real estate in some way or finance or whatever, because, you guys, in Business Pros podcast, you talk about the insurance thing, and that somebody in the world, somewhere in the world that you've never met in your life is listening to our shows worldwide. And this is the coolest thing in the world. We're reaching farther than radio. We're reaching farther than television. And the only reason I've done television advertising was to basically syndicate the podcast, my website for the business, as well as my exposure on television. And the other thing I wanted to tell you, Hernan, I know you've probably been looking at my Facebook lately. November 21st, I'm going to do a photo shoot here in Orlando at a modeling agency, and I'm going to put together a comp book and all that stuff. But I'm going to use the modeling platform as well to go out there and build my sphere, build my my network of buyers, sellers, investors, because there's a lot of people in that industry that are looking to buy somewhere. In fact, the owner of the modeling company in Orlando said to me, "Oh, when I'm ready to get a bigger studio space, I will have you list my commercial space downtown, which is a live and work space. So it's got, even more value to this property. It's on a major U.S. highway, Colonial, in Orlando. And I mean, but the doors are opening up. The more you get out there with the podcast, and I've also been in Orlando quite a bit. And actually, they probably recognize me from my podcast or my TV spot. I'm getting a lot of people in Orlando saying, "Hey, Nick, you look familiar. I've seen you before," or in the building here at the View Lake Yola. People recognize me. Well, they recognize my dog more than anything because he's a cute one. All right. He's just my arm candy, my pup. So it's all good. So, but yeah. And then I've noticed Hernan too, and for anybody listening out there, because of the consistency with the brand of the podcast, that on, like, for instance, Instagram, to get, the likes or the views that you get. I've always used hashtags, like the hashtag generator or whatever, but I've always been at average about maybe 30 views of a post. In the last week, I've been trending at over 140 views a day on these posts because of this consistency we're talking about on keeping the brand consistent and being reliable. It's like a job. I mean, it is a job. It is our career. So the job part of it is showing up to work on time every day, or showing up to do your podcast weekly or twice a week or 3 times a week. For a while there, I was doing 6 days a week. It's coming back to that again, but I've been consistent with Blanchard Insurance, one of my paid advertisers here in Central Florida. That's also another way I'm helping myself build my brand, but Blanchard Insurance is also building their brand with me. And I had a very serious conversation when all my paid advertisers, I have a conversation with them and say, "Listen, this is what we have to do. You have to let me know." They're like, "Well, what day of the week and what time of day do you want to do it?" I say, let's say, for instance, with them, Tuesday at 11 a.m. I said, "Well, we're going to do this a different day or different time every week?" I said, "Absolutely not. It's all about consistency. We show up at the same time every week. We've only had to change one, but that was the reason because I had an inspection to do for one of my listings that went under contract in Orlando. And they worked with me on that, but it was still not that far off the beaten path. But every Tuesday at 11 a.m., I said, it's going to take time. You're going to see results, but you're not going to see big results immediately. It's going to take time. And we're starting this off with a year doing this together, the Blanchard Insurance and myself. And they're already seeing results, and they've already done upgrades to their website, their brand, all that different thing. Actually, you probably saw it because remember I sent it to you. Mm-hmm. Actually, Hernan is the one that put this awesome wallpaper you guys see around us with my logo and Blanchard Insurance. That's one thing that Hernan can do for you, and over there in California. So, I really want to say again, thank you. And we got 7 minutes left, everybody, but I want to say, Hernan, I'm really, really grateful to you. And anything you want to add to what I just said, and it would be great.
Oh, dude. I mean, let's break that down for a second. So first of all, you were talking about the whole worldwide thing, right? Right. You live in the city of Mickey Mouse, dude. So like the world is your oyster. People want to come to Florida all the time. So you don't know if the people in Brazil or Germany or whoever else in the world is listening. Right. They found you through a quick little Google search. Hey, I'm thinking about buying a place in Florida. Who should I look up? Florida, real estate. And guess what? Because you've had so many episodes being put out, because you put out so many show notes, because you link to so many different people who have been on your show, you've put their name in, you've put their business, their email address. There's so many different things that people have placed your information on because you're bringing value. You're bringing them the opportunity to be on your show. It all adds up. If you Google my name, Hernan Sias, right? You Google my name, I own the first 2, maybe 3 pages of the Google search results because there's so much data out there. There's so much content that I put out in the last 3 years. It's incredible. And that power is huge because people believe the credibility that you have when you Google somebody's name. And that's, on my real estate signs, it literally says, Google me first, then list with me, because the credibility is there. It's been built. And what you're doing with your consistent branding is very much the same thing. Somebody who's out of state, somebody who's out of the country who wants to come to Florida to buy something near Mickey Mouse so they can come enjoy their stuff, they're going to look for the one that shows up on Google because it has the biggest credibility. And that's what ends up happening. Check it out. That's you right there, right? And this is everything that pops up. You're opening. Exactly. And look at everything that pops up. Then that's just because you're constantly putting out your content on a regular basis, right? So that's the power of getting in front of people and telling them what it is you do. You're right. At the very beginning, there wasn't a lot of people who listened at first because they didn't know who you are. But as you established yourself, as you added in the different websites that you created, then you started adding in different people that you had a guest on the show, then you started doing the TV spots. This is all searchable content that people can find online on a regular basis, and it's you just mounting it up. Like if you had to compare, it's almost like, think Scrooge McDuck, right? And he's stacking little coins, right? Every single piece of content you put is another coin and another coin and another coin. Before you know it, there's so many coins that you've put out compared to your competition, who they might have been in the industry for 20 years and, maybe 10 years longer than you have, or whatever the situation is. But the problem has always been the same when it comes to sales reps. It doesn't matter how many years you've been in the business. It doesn't matter how great of a professional you are. If nobody knows you exist, that is a problem. And that is the problem that many entrepreneurs have, is they have no credibility. It doesn't matter how good they are if nobody knows that you're that good. And so, having a way to get your message in front of people is powerful. You've been doing that consistently, and it's been impressive, but it's ultimately it's done what it's supposed to do. It's helping your bottom line. It's helping you get more listings. It's helping you be more credible. It's helping you gain your confidence. And at the end of the day, I don't think you're going to stop. You've tasted a little bit of what it's like to do this. This has become part of your lifestyle. When you're talking about, on Tuesday at 11 o'clock, this is what we do. You have your time for your show every single day. And this just part of what you do. Some people pick up the phone and call for sale by owner. Some people, go door knocking or whatever the situation is. Your prospecting is your podcast. This is how you're getting your message out there. It doesn't mean you don't talk to for sale by owners. It doesn't mean you don't talk to anybody else. This is just the one thing that you do in your prospecting routine on a regular basis that gets your message out further than what you could do just by shaking hands, right? The word of mouth is still going to be there, but now you have word of mouth with credibility. And that's huge in any professional industry, because again, I always talk about the three ways. Like if you were going to buy or sell a house, and there's only this is you now. This is not you, the realtor. This is just you, the individual. You're going to buy a house. First thing you're going to do is go to the realtor, right? That's always going to be the one. That's always going to be the first place you go to. But what if you don't know a realtor? Then you're going to go to your friends and family. You're going to ask them for a realtor they know. Right. And then the third way you're going to do it, if none of them know anybody, is you're going to go to whatever advertising, the park bench, you're going to go to the billboard, you're going to go to the TV spot, whatever it is. Realtors spend so much time and money on number 3 being that marketing spot that they don't realize that the real power comes in being the realtor they know or the realtor their friends know. And that's what the power of podcasting really does for you. That's what building a brand does for you. You become the one of the 2 spots. And by default, just because you have all that content, you're also the number 3 spot, because you have so much content out there. They're going to find you when you need to market. So focus your attention on getting in front of people first and foremost, and be the person that people know as the professional. And then if they don't know you, make sure that their friends know you. And then everything else is going to fall into place. And that's what you've been doing with the consistency, with this show on a consistent basis. It's just part of what you do.
No, I appreciate that, Hernan. And the other thing I was going to tell you, everybody, before we go, we only have like a minute left or less. And the other thing, the consistency we're talking about and getting the confidence, Hernan. And you remember, right, the day, well, I already had the Honorable Mayor Jerry L. Demings of Orange County, Florida, mayor, which runs, this is a huge county here in Orlando area. It's more than just Orlando, Ocoee, all different parts of the Orlando metro area. And it was just a way of the consistency and getting him as a guest. And then the timing, because he was already scheduled to be on my podcast as a guest, like before the civil unrest happened, from the lockdown that we had from quarantine here, and everybody getting frustrated and penned it up like anger because they were stuck at home, not working. Bartenders got let go, servers got let go, and they're the ones that were voicing their opinions the most because they were impacted financially and their livelihood changed. And what the timing too, like you never know what you're going to hit. I mean, that was not planned out. Obviously, that was completely random to what happened.
But luck favors the prepared, Nick. You were prepared to capitalize on that opportunity, and that's what happened.
Right. Well, because of the consistency that we talked about, Hernan, and everybody listening out there, because of that consistency, it just fell into place because, like you said, luck being prepared, that if I hadn't been consistent and I didn't plan in advance, that lining up of the two world events would have never happened. The fact that I got the mayor on the day after civil unrest in Florida, and the topic was supposed to just to be about the current state of the real estate market and property values in Orlando, Orange County, because he's the mayor that oversees all of Orange County. So what better person to have on as a guest than the one that knows all about property values with the property appraisers and the county property appraiser. And then before I even got to start the interview, I of course introduced my guest, Mr. Mayor Demings, and then just because he had an outlet that I provided to him, both on Facebook and all the other platforms, which is also on the Google device and the Echo device or Amazon, and I think even the Apple device through Apple Podcasts, is the fact of the matter is that he utilized my platform to vent his frustration, which was cool. And so you never know. Being prepared and being consistent in this business is important, like Hernan and I said, because you never know what world event or which situation you're going to cross paths with. And if you're prepared, like Hernan was saying, like I was over here for this show with the mayor, the timing synced out correctly where I got the mayor of a major county in Florida to talk about frustration with civil unrest and protesting.
You can't buy those moments, Nick. Those are awesome little life moments. And again, if you hadn't been doing that, you'd have been the guy watching it on TV somewhere rather than the guys doing it. Look, my 5 a.m. club talks about the lockdown legacy. What is going to be your lockdown legacy? March 13th, everybody got locked in and had to quarantine. What have you done with the last 8 months of your life? Did you waste away this extra time that you have, or did you capitalize on it? Did you make something of it? Nick, you've capitalize on your 8 months. You're way better off today than you were 8 months ago, way better off than you were a year ago. And I commend you for doing all that, man. It's really, a testament to your consistency and what you're doing here. And it's only getting better. It's only going to get better.
Awesome, man. I agree. And all right, everybody out there. So Hernan, again, thank you very much for being my first guest of the 1-year anniversary of the Home Doll podcast. And thank you for putting me on your show a year ago about this time, because it was November of last year. And I really appreciate it. And I'm glad to have seen how far you've come and also how far I've come in this. And so I've been really, really grateful. And many more episodes on your show and my show together in the future. Okay?
For sure. Thanks, Nick.
All right, guys. Well, you guys all have a good day. This has been the Home to All podcast. I am Nicholas Acosta here in beautiful downtown Orlando, Florida. As you guys can see behind me, this is the view at Lake Eola, or Lake Eola behind me. I'm going to run the credits. Thank you again, Hernan, for being there. And have a good day, everybody. And I'm going to roll the credits.
This has been Home to All, an all-inclusive real estate podcast. Find Nick on Facebook and Instagram at downtown.expert, and also his website, www.downtown.expert, or call or text him at 407-508-8809. Thanks for listening.